Unambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes. I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel. Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes. Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage. Yeah? How quaint. I agreed that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses? Huh? Tell me, my Japanese friend, have you even traveled in an omnibus? Well, no. We only arrived in London this morning. No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves, the actual scene of the crime, that is. What? Do you mean the actual scene? How? A carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much. Yes. The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place is here today, in this very building. Here? What? The entire carriage? Bailiff! Bring forth the stricken omnibus. Okay. So that's an omnibus. The omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled over by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. 4 passengers seated inside in the enclosed cabin and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an Omnibus. Das haben die dann aber auch bis heute übernommen, ne? Mit den heutigen Doppeldeckerbussen in London. Ist ja selbes Prinzip. And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight at the roof, allowing a view of the interior from the seats above. Ah, a skylight. Oh! The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on this omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. That makes perfect sense. Well, Counsel, this is the first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. Alles klar. That is the prosecution's wish. Das ist, glaube ich, das größte Beweisstück, was wir jemals hatten. Very well. I see no reason why not. This omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. The omnibus has been entered into the court record. The 8-seater omnibus that was the scene of the crime. There were passengers both inside the carriage and on the roof deck that night. I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence? Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Okay. Dann gucken wir uns mal erstmal den Omnibus an. Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? The scene of a murder. It's horrible. Okay. That's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition. Oh, the Crystal Tower. It's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. Große Ausstellung. This seat has a handle, it seems. Oh. Gucken uns erstmal den Blutfleck an. There's blood that's soaked into the seat. The victims, obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab somebody in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark, and there was a lamp on in here, so perhaps the culprit didn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Okay, gucken wir mal hier rein. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Feeding tubs, tools to repair, wheels, blankets, horseshoeing tools. So it's a storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things, it seems. There doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to stow the luggage, that's for sure. Well, I don't imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyway. Wieso kann man doch einen Koffer rein tun? Okay. Okay, das hatten wir schon. Ja, okay. Ich dachte hier, die Koffer wäre noch was anderes. That's a poster for the great exhibition. It's a lot of focus. Okay, hatten wir auch schon. Auf der anderen Seite. Das Skylight nochmal. It's quite a large skylight, isn't it? Yes, quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. And there doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description. So I suppose it can't be opened from inside the cabin at least. Entschuldigung. Boah, irgendwie stupft es. Have you seen enough? Let's step back outside then. Okay. Nein. Das steht da jetzt nicht. Nein, das steht da jetzt nicht. Das steht da jetzt nicht. Phoenix White Omnibus? Was? Was? Bitte was? Phoenix White Omnibus? Can't find anything out of place. Wieso steht da Phoenix White Omnibus? Wieso kann ich das nicht untersuchen? Als ob. Okay. Grüße gehen raus an Fini. Was? You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the... Okay. Haben wir alles, denke ich mal. Aber Phoenix White Omnibus? Als ob, hä? Was ist das denn? Nices Easter egg. Let us continue with proceedings then. Your cross-examination, counsel. Pray don't expect to snip beneath straight to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights. Alright, my first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Weirnoska. Focus. Phoenix White Omnibus, ey. Ich kann nicht mehr. What the witnesses saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember it well.
Hold it!
Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh yes, sir. That's right, sir. Yes, ever so cold. It was, sir. Freezing, in fact. Okay, alles normal. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time. Is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same time in the same parts of the bus, of course, though. And there were no other passengers when the incident took place. No one alighted, for example. You are quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that. No, none. So nobody fled the scene of the crime. I have to say, the boss insists on it running, he does, every evening, that last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, what with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run, you see. Yes, I spent that much at the pub on the way home, just trying to warm up again. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Hold it! And you saw them through the skylight in the roof of the carriage. That's right. When you sit up on the top deck, the window's right there at your feet. There was a lamp on inside, so you had a pretty good view. The 2 of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGildet. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? McGildet is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGildet. There's no room for doubt here. I really wish there was. Then, out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. Hold it! You actually saw the exact moment it happened? Didn't I already testify to that? Or are fair dinkum, hard-working Citibankers not considered trustworthy these days? Oh, no, I didn't mean that. This is no good. I've really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail. My lord! You want juror number 3? What's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking witch. Never have. They are always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. That is precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it's my duty to set a good example to my fellow jurors. What is happening here? Let me see. Ah yes, it seems that's how the members of the jury give the verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case. One by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before. Okay, also... Sie können sich quasi mittendrin entscheiden, ob sie denken, dass er schuldig ist oder nicht. Das ist natürlich nicht gut. Vor allem, wenn wir jetzt schon 2 Stimmen für schuldig haben. Very well. The court acknowledges the change in the jury's stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. This is a nightmare. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it.
Hold it!
He stabbed him, you say, and you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. I'd been thinking about a new head design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly, that huge great knife. A grim sight indeed. Ah, that didn't help me at all. The jury looks like they are even more convinced my client did it than they were before. That appears to have made everyone even more dubious about Mr. McGill that Mr. McGill is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First. Oh, yes, sir? Is this the knife you saw? Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. The very one, sir. Is that... Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly, like a stake through the heart. That is a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is. And furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. McGilded, fuck please no. M, for Magnus perhaps, or McGilded possibly. Take your pick. It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
Objection!
But there are M's everywhere. Yes, like in Mason.
Objection!
This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. Mason war das Opfer. Also der Brickmaker. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel. The murder weapon has been entered into the court record. A largish knife that was found lodged in the victim's abdomen. Its quality and fancy ornamentation suggest it must be quite valuable. My lord, if you forgive the interruption. Ah, juror number 2, go on. Mr. McGill is a pillar of society and a gentleman, and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept the hard truth. Wait, what are you about to do? Dispose of the rubbish! Okay, jetzt haben wir schon 3 Stimmen dafür. Die Hälfte schon überzeugt. No! I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. 4? I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion. No! Not again! That's 4 out of 6 jury members who've proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. We've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We are still very much in the dark. I suppose I just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We mustn't give up hope that we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But... alright, I'll keep trying. Come, Naruhodo, zeig resolve. I can't give up. Entschlossenheit. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witness's statement again. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too.
Hold it!
What exactly did you see? Oh, where, sir? That would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was. And by the passenger, obviously you are referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. And the other passenger had that knife in his hand, like this. By the other passenger, obviously you are referring to the accused, Mr. McGilded. And then he plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly. What? My lord, I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5. Do I take it that you too, as the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse has bolted, as they say. No, no, please, just keep it up. Be up now, Silverblaze. The finish is in sight. Oh no. Beppo is a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. Ach stimmt, die haben ja dasselbe Outfit an. Fällt mir jetzt erst auf. You're too kind, sir. This is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. Oh no, nicht die strickende Oma. Madam Juror number 6. Yes, dear. What can I do for you? You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand. Oh yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know. Then, pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? Well, dear, the fact is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day, and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He is always doing wonderful things for the city. That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the McGilded Public Library later and borrow some more books? How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know? What kind of a man Magnus McGilded really is? But we're student yet. What kind of man is he? The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls. What? Stone the crows! McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He's a vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam. So has his thought not crossed your mind. Was hat er jetzt gesagt? Shylock. Was ist ein Shylock? Kredithai. Okay, ein Wucherer. Okay, also er leiht sehr viel Geld aus und die Opfer haben keine Chance, das wieder zu bezahlen wegen hohen Zinsen, okay. Und wenn sie nicht zurückzahlen können, dann nimmt er alles, was sie haben. Oh no. So has the thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? True. What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that the victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name, save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment date for his debts. Oh nein. Good gracious! The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him. His life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it.
Hold it!
If I might add something briefly, Miss Susato, you claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded. But where's the evidence to support your claim? Okay, Susato hat das hier gerade mehr in ihrer Hand als wir. Traubensaft, natürlich. Way forgives the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in a court of law. Aha, there it is. Lord Van Ziek's hallowed chalice. Was ist hallowed chalice? Hallowed, geheiligt und chalice, Kelch, heiliger Kelch. Okay. How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. Ah! As judicial assistant to the defense, I am simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in the toast of the enigmatic East at the same time. A marvelous toast, counsel. I will gladly accept this new evidence. The debtor's ledger has been entered into the court record, a catalogue of people who had borrowed money from the defendant at a high rate of interest. It includes the victim who owned 20 guineas. Ah yes, 20 guineas. The victim owned a considerable sum. Gucken wir mal selbst rein. This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Gentry ist Wohlstand, oder? Gentry. Oberschicht, okay. Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. I assure you, you will not find Mr. Sholmes' name inside. Well, let's see what we find. Okay, was steht drin? Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they are probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness! What is it? Look at this. Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay, der Banker. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment. Oh yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. The details of the debtor's ledger have been updated in the court record. Among the defendant's list of debtors, Bruce Fairplay, who would have been due to repay his loan imminently. Okay. Interesting. Ah yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum, and the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused. And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel! Still, maybe it's all for the best. Ah, wait a moment. Let's think about... I don't stand for nonsense.